What do you say, everybody? Welcome to Monday Night Quarterback. We're presented by Westgate Luxury Condominiums, part of the Bama on 3, BamaInsider.com. And every Monday night we get together and we talk about the Crimson Tide. Great to have Jimmy Stein on with us. And before we talk about anything else, do me a big solid. This is how you say Roll Tide here on the YouTube channel. Give us a thumbs up, like and subscribe, hit the bell so you know when we're live. What's up, Jimmy? Good to see you. I got the feel you're in Tuscaloosa.
I am in Tuscaloosa tonight, and it's cold, but that's fine. But I am headed back to our little corner of the world, Mick, as soon as Wednesday. Head back down to Lower Alabama. Go back and forth all the time, but bring the Tide with me wherever I go.
Yeah, look, I make that trip too. I don't think it's a bad drive, honestly. Like of the other drives that I make, going from down here on the coast, Fairhope or, Montrose or Daphne or whatever, up to Tuscaloosa. And a lot of people that are watching probably do that on game days. I like it. You can either go through Mississippi, right, and Meridian and come in that way, or you can go up through like 69 or 43 or whatever. But I think all of them aren't bad. Scenic.
Yeah, I've changed over the years. Long story short, when I was younger, when I was going to school and I lived in Daphne and went to college in Alabama and went years after that, would go to games and everything else, I would go up 43 or 69 all the time. Mm-hmm. But then as I got older, I literally put a stopwatch to it. And I think the Meridian, going through Meridian is actually faster. But when I say faster, you're talking about 10 minutes, 12 minutes, 15 minutes. So it's max. So it's not a lot faster, but it's a little faster. It is scenic the other way, though. It's nice. One day they'll 4-lane it all the way through Alabama, I think, to Tuscaloosa. That'll be fantastic. But no, it's really not bad.
Going through you're going to miss that Moundville stop if you go up through Mississippi. Hey, guys, we see in the comments section, whether you're hanging out with us in Florida, Roll Tide, whether you're in the Philippines, Roll Tide, all you guys, see you out in the comments section. And thank you for being here tonight. And again, give us a thumbs up as you hang out. And Blue 72, Rammer Jammer, I hear you, man. Well, what's up, Jimmy? I mean, we got a lot to talk about. Now that I'm back south, well, I guess I'm actually north compared to where we did last week's show from Key West.
Right. How was Key West?
Look, it was great. Yeah, I liked it. Like, first off, and I guess we could kind of get into this, so because we got some extra time tonight. You go to a place where there's just like chickens walking around everywhere, and you're like, well, how's this going to work? And why aren't they being eaten up by cats and other predators? And maybe they are, but I liked it. I thought it was pretty cool. Like, there's just chickens everywhere. They're just hanging out, little chicks and roosters and hens and everything. The people were great. Awesome vibe there. We were talking about going to Sloppy Joe's. I hung out and watched Monday Night Football a week ago today at Captain Tony's, and I was right in front of the table where Mike Leach hung out. And so I didn't plan on staying in there, but I had such a good time watching all the extra points being missed by Dallas that I just kind of made friends and ended up watching the entire game. A lot of high fives, but a really cool city, man. I mean, or a place anyway. So have you been there a lot?
Yeah, no, just one time. And actually it's Alabama related. When Alabama played Notre Dame in the 2012 national championship game, the wife and I, we did 3 or 4 days in the Keys before the final 2 days in Fort Lauderdale before kickoff. So that was my trip. So that was quite a while ago. But my highlight for me was the Sloppy Joe's at Sloppy Joe's, which is like the original Ernest Hemingway bar. And I loved it. The eating and the drinking, frankly, was my favorite part of the trip. And a lot of Alabama fans, of course, we're about to play Notre Dame and in a few days, there's a lot of Alabama fans. Oh, sweet.
There it is. That's the Sloppy Joe at Sloppy Joe's. Yeah. I took a picture of it. Yeah. Yeah, a lot of drinking there. A lot of people moved there, and I had everybody was telling me where to go, right? JP Shadrick, who's with Jacksonville, went to school with me at Alabama. He works for the Jaguars now. He goes there some, and he was like, well, you got to go to Blue Heaven. And I ended up going to Blue Heaven and enjoyed that. As honestly, I had a good time everywhere I went. It was cool.
Sure. The history for those not familiar, but the history of Key West, unbelievable. They have a little White House down there. Multiple U.S. presidents spend considerable time at Key West, and of course, it's the southernmost point of the U.S. And you can stand there, and you're like literally just 90 miles from Havana, Cuba.
Yeah, it's
And
crazy.
yeah, just the history of it and the hurricanes and everything else. But yeah, what a cool trip. And maybe one day Alabama will be in the national championship situation down in South Florida. And I know myself, that's the trip I'll always book. If Alabama's playing in Miami for a significant game, I think I'm going to sneak in a trip to the Keys.
That's a good idea. I'm going to write that down because I love that idea. And I never even thought about it. I just, kind of had that on my agenda, had to take care of some stuff that I wanted to do, and that was one of them. But we're talking about Bama guys, kind of switching gear from games, but to players. There's a lot of Alabama influence in the playoffs, in the NFL playoffs this year, and so I saw where someone tweeted today, they were like, I want to see the Eagles against the Bengals so that we've got Alabama against LSU. How funny is that?
That is nice. The Eagles are definitely the team that's left in the NFL that has the most Alabama influence. Obviously, Jalen Hurts, huge story in the NFL this year. So incredible. Frankly, as long as I've been following Alabama football, Mick, Jalen's one of my favorite stories. I mean, to go from so much success at Alabama to literally leaving Alabama and then having success in the NFL beyond anyone's wildest dreams other than Jalen. What an incredible success story. What a guy. And even though he spent his final year at Oklahoma, even though he was benched at Alabama for another guy, he still waves the Alabama flag.
I know.
He's still proud to have spent his time at Alabama, to have graduated from Alabama. People need to remember that. Jalen Hurts is an Alabama graduate, close to Nick Saban. Nick Saban cried on national TV when Jalen had his shining moment at Alabama, coming off the bench to rescue Alabama after the injury to Tua in 2018. And now for Jalen to be considered, he's probably not going to win an MVP. I think Patrick Mahomes is going to win MVP, but Jalen will finish maybe a strong second in the NFL MVP. Just incredible. And Jalen may win the Super Bowl and hold that Lombardi trophy. I will cry. I'll be right on. Me and Nick will be crying. Me, Nick, and Mick will all be crying if Jalen pulls that off, and he might. But Jalen plays for the Eagles alongside Devontae Smith, alongside Landon Dickerson, alongside Josh Jobe, who made a nice play, by the way, at the near the end of that playoff game this weekend. But all four are former Alabama players that play for the Eagles. There are no Alabama players that play for the 49ers, though they do have a defensive coordinator, DeMeco Ryans, who's an Alabama legend, who's obviously one step short of being an NFL head coach. He may make that step upon this season ending. I kind of look for DeMeco to end up to be the head coach of the Houston Texans. And then, of course, in the AFC, no Alabama players play for the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC, but Jonah Williams plays for the Bengals. And so that's why I'm going to be kind of a Bengals-Eagles fan this upcoming weekend.
Yeah, look, the Bengals ran the football too. They just rebuilt that offensive line kind of last minute, and they just gouged Buffalo. So pretty cool to see the Alabama influence in the playoffs. I think of that Daniel Moore picture of Jalen Hurts, and now all of a sudden, and I have a lot of them in here, at New Life Art, but these are all championships pretty much. But I don't know. Jalen Hurts is what he's doing in the NFL. He's kind of got to be adding some value to that picture because he's, it's like he's becoming. I mean, if Patrick Mahomes wins MVP, that'd be great because he also won my fantasy football championship a couple weeks ago. Nice. So that was a nice dub for me. But at the same time, I think that and I know he got hurt, but I think that Jalen Hurts coming back, getting the number one seed, I think he's the player of the year. I mean, he's just so tough to defend. I mean, the fact that he's gotten better at throwing the football and he runs, and I really feel like he's he's the perfect running quarterback because unlike Lamar Jackson of the Ravens, he doesn't really get injured. He's a bigger, stronger guy. You know, his injury was like a shoulder injury. It wasn't like a, you know, like a knee or a leg injury. I mean, he's out there like, you know, squatting 1,000 pounds, you know, so pretty cool to see that.
Yeah, and here's a controversial statement to sort of kick off the show. This sounds crazy because trust me, no one knows the impact that Bryce Young has made on Alabama better than I do. But Jalen's success in the NFL has reminded me, Mick, that this upcoming fall, I do think it's a bonus or a benefit to Alabama that will once again have a quarterback who's a running threat. And while Bryce was a tremendous running threat because he's incredibly athletic, let's just be honest. Bryce didn't want to run the football. He just didn't want to. He's explained this to the media, to the public in the past. Bryce has said publicly when he was a young quarterback, and by that we're talking middle school, he did not want to be labeled as the athletic quarterback that just gets out there and runs the football. So he resisted running the football as far back as the 6th and 7th grade, even though he has clearly gifted athleticism and he is dangerous with his legs. He resisted running the football. Then he gets to Alabama, and let's be honest, he's small. He's a guy that you wouldn't think would take a lot of hits and still be healthy. So he didn't run the ball in part for that reason. But during Bryce's 2 seasons as a starter at Alabama, this is a guy that basically did everything he could to not run the ball. He would throw the ball away before he would tuck it and run. When he did tuck it and run, it was very late. He just didn't use his legs as a weapon. Then he even gets hurt during his last year at Alabama. Then he's got to protect his shoulder. So I really think, Mick, I'm not arguing at all that it affected Alabama's success because he's so good with his arm. But I, for one, sort of look forward to this fall when you have a quarterback that the other team has to defend the run. And I'm not talking about just Jalen Milroe. Ty Simpson is outstanding with his legs. He will not have that hesitancy. He will not have that, hey, I don't want to be known as an athletic quarterback. Ty Simpson's going to run the football, and Jalen Milroe certainly will. We've already seen that. I think, Mick, that Alabama's offense is going to have this new, almost a reintroduced element that's been gone for 2 years. It's weird to say that with how athletic Bryce is, but it's just a fact. I think everybody agrees with me. Bryce did not use his legs as the weapon that they really were. But I do believe that Ty Simpson and Jalen Milroe will, and it will bring an element to the offense that will make Alabama very tough to defend, no different than Jalen is tough to defend in the NFL, because NFL teams know, hey, we better spy Hurts because he'll hurt us with his legs if we don't.
Right.
And that opens up so much more. I talked recently with an X's and O's guy about this, an X's and O's expert. When the defense has to spend a guy on the quarterback's ability to run the ball, and you keep a guy in case the quarterback runs it, now you've opened up your own run game. Because now one guy that's normally there to defend the run isn't defending the running back.
Right.
He's looking at the quarterback. Or you throw the ball, and now you got a linebacker who could be dropping into coverage. Instead, he's sitting there watching the running back. So having the defense force them to have a spy helps the offense in so many ways. But that was just non-existent for Alabama the last 2 years because everybody knew Bryce wasn't going to run the football.
Hey, guys, as you hang out with us here on Monday Night Quarterback, like and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up as we hang out with you here on the Bama Insider YouTube channel. Hit the bell, too, so you know when we're live. Talking with Jimmy Stein. Coming up next, we'll get into some recruiting with Joseph Hastings. Damari Kennedy enters the transfer portal. What do you think?
Well, I mean, it's a loss, but it's okay. And here's why it's a loss. Demoy's a good player. He actually, at one point before he hurt his knee this year, I thought he was kind of developing into one of Alabama's best special teams players. Really good on kick coverage, good on the punt coverage. He's what I call a runner and a hitter. And by that, I mean he can run really well, and he's not shy about hitting people when he gets home. But what Demoy had struggled to do, Mick, was find a spot with the starting defense to even find a spot with the second team defense. He's sort of, with his unique size, where he's sort of either he's sort of a bigger safety or a small linebacker, so he's kind of a tweener. I think that hurt him in terms of getting into the lineup as a first or second team player at Alabama. But he was so good on special teams, probably would have entered this fall, maybe Alabama's best special teams player. So in that sense, it's a loss. But in the other sense, it's a gain because Alabama, even with Demoy Kennedy moving on, you're still over the 85 limit in terms of not right now. You have to be at 85 or under for the spring. Alabama's good with that. But in the fall, when you're adding all of the newcomers, Alabama be over by a couple spots. So you need more additional attrition. And Demoy was not a projected first or second team player. So in that sense, he's sort of the attrition that is, quote, ideal, as cruel as that sounds.
Yeah.
Where you're not losing a starter, you're not losing a second team guy. And so there's some good and some bad to it. But hey, look, if you're the fan that's like, didn't want to see Demoy go, that's like, gosh, this guy had so much potential. I hate losing any local guys and in-state guys. A guy from mine and mixed, neck of the woods, Theodore, it's South Mobile County. So kind of our neck of the woods and local. But to be honest, clears out room that Alabama needs. And Demoy's likely to find a more significant role at a new place, be it Ole Miss, which I think is very possible, be it Southern Miss, which is possible. Also think UAB, probably all in the mix for Demoy. Also, I don't rule out Demoy coming back to Alabama. I do think that's possible too. And that would be great because he's a good player. Again, a runner and a hitter, a great special teams guy. Could end up in a role by his senior year in terms of being on the field more often on defense. But let's call losing Demoy part of the new normal, which is good players leaving to go play somewhere else just because they might see a better opportunity in terms of getting on the field.
Yeah, one of those guys that did that at Georgia came to Alabama, Trez Marshall. What do you think of that?
Yeah, that's real interesting. A couple things. I have some strong feelings about this, actually, and that's just because, I think this transfer portal is so new to fans. And Alabama's had such tremendous success with guys like Jamison Williams, guys like Henry To'oTo'o, even Tyler Steen, who started every game at Alabama once he transferred from Vanderbilt. I think Alabama fans get a guy out of the portal and they're like, here we go. Now we got a starter. Now we got a great player like Jamison Williams or like Henry To'oTo'o, who was a 2-year starter. But the fact of the matter is Trez was a career backup at Georgia. He was never a first-team player over there. He did have an injury situation during his second and third year on their campus, but even this previous year, his fourth year, he was not a starter. So it's really crazy for Alabama fans, I think, to make a comparison to like a Jamison situation where, it's tough to get on the field at Georgia, but he'll come to Alabama and he'll be a starter. I wouldn't necessarily jump to that conclusion. I think he'll be in the mix along with some other young linebackers. And I think Alabama smartly took Trez because Trez is an experienced inside linebacker. Alabama really only has one of those on the whole roster, and that's Deontay Lawson. I think Trez has a good chance to be the second starting inside linebacker, or he's a crucial backup, or he's replacing the loss of Demoy Kennedy on Alabama special teams. My understanding is he's a real good special teams player at Georgia last year. So this is all good. I just don't want the fans to take this and run with it like it's just another Jamison Williams. It's not that situation. Not every kid you get out of the portal is going to be a first-round pick and a superstar because he wasn't getting a fair shot at the place he was before. So I think if people's expectations are kept in check, Clint Lamb, our fantastic beat writer at Bama Insider, made a great comp. He said, this is like Alabama signing Jalen Moody out of the portal 1 year ago. And people need to remember that. Moody was in the portal. Alabama recruited him out of the portal to fill a role that really ended up helping the team. Although Moody's probably not going to be drafted. He wasn't a first-team player all season long. He wasn't a crucial part of the team. But Moody helped Alabama. He started some games. He played in a lot. He was a big part of special teams. and he brought some veteran leadership. And I think at minimum, Trez Marshall is Jalen Moody, and that's a good thing.
Hanging out with Jimmy Stein here on the Bama Insider YouTube channel. Guys, it's a great opportunity for you to join BamaInsider.com on $29.99 until August 31st, 2023. You can also do $9.99 a month, but why would you do that when you can go $29.99 and you'd get all those months in there? So check it out. But Jimmy's on the message board all the time. I see some of you guys are saying, hey, what about basketball? Number 2 in the country. I'm going to ask him that before he gets off here. We got recruiting coming up with Joseph Hastings, Andrew Bone. You got Clint Lamb. You got the entire crew on there. And we're going to just keep getting better and better and better. So, and I can just tell you that with a wink, you need to be part of this. We're changing the face of team coverage right here, and we want you guys to be a part of it. All right, Jimmy, look, we've debated this. The message board has blown up all year talking about it. And now I think we know that OC and DC are changing for Alabama. One guy's already gone, and Pete Golding, he's at Ole Miss. And then Bill O'Brien's going to be in the NFL. I think he officially interviewed with the Patriots. We think he's going to end up back there. If it hasn't been official yet, it will be soon. Where does that leave Alabama?
Well, I think, and I'm guessing, this is an inside scoop, I'm guessing that both positions will be filled by the weekend. I feel that. And by the way, if they're not, so what? It's no big deal. Spring practice doesn't start for 6 or 7 weeks. So there's no reason to be alarmed if it's not. But I feel both positions will be filled by Saturday. Alabama's got a big-time junior day. I know you're about to talk to Joseph Hastings. He's going to fill everybody in on this big junior day that's going to happen Saturday. In terms of who they are, a bit of a mystery. I know for myself, I'm a Jeremy Pruitt fan on the defensive side of the ball. I hope, and I'm speaking selfishly, just my own, I hope it's Jeremy Pruitt. But I fully realize the obstacles or the barriers there. And Alabama's going to have to vet this with the NCAA and the SEC office, and they could find reasons to where maybe it's not the best time to hire Jeremy Pruitt. But I hope that's not the case. I hope Alabama gets information that leads them to believe that hiring Jeremy Pruitt's fine, because I think he's one of the best defensive minds in football. He's a good fit, gets along with Coach Saban great. We've seen it work before. There's every reason to hope that it's Jeremy Pruitt on defense. If not, there's other interesting candidates out there. Alabama even has one that's currently in the building, and Todd Grantham, who's a defensive analyst that's worked for Alabama this past year. He has extensive experience. I think he's been a DC in 4 places, including working for Saban in the past, and he's been with the team this year. I think that hiring Todd Grantham is something that could happen. And that would be interesting because of his extensive experience with Coach Saban. Perhaps something's worked out where Grantham is defensive coordinator and Jeremy Pruitt's an analyst, and then down the road the roles are switched. Who knows? Coach Saban's very smart about this sort of thing, but I do think Jeremy Pruitt's would be my choice, and Todd Grantham's an interesting name. Other names like Glenn Schumann, who also would be ideal, but also might be difficult to hire. He's defensive coordinator at Georgia. He's got a pretty good job where he's at. Loyal to Kirby Smart, which is understandable, but Glenn Schumann is an interesting name. OC, Mick, that's a little more wide open. For one thing, as we speak, Alabama's got an OC. Bill O'Brien is still the offensive coordinator. If you walked into Bill O'Brien's office, I have not today, but I'm pretty sure if you walked into Bill O'Brien's office right now, it'd be full of Bill O'Brien's stuff. He hasn't gone anywhere. He's the OC at Alabama right now, and still has that job. I think that's probably slowed up things to an extent, but I think we all know, as we talk about here, that he's very likely to move on to the NFL. I don't have a name there for you, Mick, but I just have an idea of what the new hire will look like. And that's that a guy with NFL experience, a guy with some head coaching experience, and some guy that wants to run the ball and use the RPO again and get the quarterback running the ball. I think whoever the new hire is going to check all those boxes. Really, I'm going by Nick Saban's recent hires: Sark, O'Brien, Lane Kiffin, even Mike Locksley. All 4 of his last hires had head coaching experience, had some experience coaching teams that ran the ball, and wanted the RPO as a big part of the offense, especially Locks, who's really good at that. Sark was really good at that. Lane Kiffin was certainly good at that with Blake Sims. And then even Bill O'Brien, who had spent some time coaching Deshaun Watson in the NFL. I think the next hire is going to look like those hires. Head coach, offensive coordinator, run the ball, RPOs. So I have a name for you, but I'm confident that the new hire is going to fit kind of all those boxes.
All right, before we let you get out of here, and I see all you guys in the comments section, Jersey Dolphins, good to see you. Mike Coleman hanging out with us in the Philippines. Terry Marsh, all you guys. Jerry, hey, man, thank you for being part of Monday Night Quarterback. And if you're not in the comments section yet, jump in there and throw some comments out there. It's what this thing's all about. You know, I like the debate. Some of you guys might not even be Bama fans, but let's have a good time, mixing it up. It's hard, Jimmy, not to be a Bama fan when it comes to basketball. I'm telling you, I think this is the best Bama basketball team that we've ever seen. They won the SEC a couple of seasons ago, and they were really good, but this feels different. You know, it just feels so much deeper. They can beat you in so many different ways. I like the focus that this team has had. Obviously, you know, after the Vanderbilt game, a lot of emotions there. Read a story that they went to Buc-ee's up in Athens, we have a Buc-ee's down here. You know that, not too far from where we're at. But Brandon Miller's so great, and Quinterly and Sears. I mean, you can keep going through. They're getting healthy. Wow, this team is good. Now we still got a long way to go. They got to play at Oklahoma coming up this week, so some tough games ahead. But number 2 in the country.
My favorite thing about this basketball team, Mick, my favorite thing, and it changes day to day. That's why it's great. But my favorite thing is, Nate Oates likes the 3, and we literally recruit the roster because he wants a team that 1 through 5, and by that I mean point guard through center, he wants them all to be able to run the floor and shoot. That's like a big time philosophy. Like, we want to be a good shooting team that takes a lot of threes, that makes a lot of threes. And that's the idea behind the roster. The reason this team is so good, Mick, is, they can do that. They're recruited to do that. I mean, that's the team that Nate recruited. But this team can beat you when the shots aren't falling. Mm-hmm. This team beat Houston, who at the time was number 1, who today is number 3. This team beat Houston in their gym, and Alabama only hit 7 3-point shots, which is a couple. I think there were 7 for 23. That's not a great shooting night. It's not horrid. It's not putrid, but it's not great. 7 for 23, and they still beat the number 1 team in the country on the road. That's what makes this team really dangerous. Yeah, they're built around shooting it. Yeah, when they do shoot it, and it's going in, when Brandon and Sears and Quinterly and Ryle and Griffin, when they're all having their night, you can forget it. But even when this team isn't particularly sharp, they'll still beat you. This is, to date, the best Alabama team I've ever seen. Now, there's a lot of basketball left, and the postseason is left, which will define the whole season.
That's right.
What happens in the postseason defines it all.
That's
but
right.
To date, this is the best Alabama team I've ever seen.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think everybody can agree with that. But you're right, Jimmy. What matters is what you do in March. And if you're Alabama, you want to be remembered as one of those great teams. You got to go into that tournament and be playing your best basketball. You got to have some luck. You got to, you hope that the seeding isn't terrible, and then you go out there and don't lose to UCLA, a team that you're better than, but you lost to. So a lot can be said between now and then, but we just got to keep enjoying it while it's out there. Jimmy, thank you for doing double time for us on Monday Night Quarterback. Clint Lamb will be back next week, but had a great time. Roll Tide.
Anytime, Mick.
All right, well, that's Jimmy Stein. And don't forget, guys, he's on the message board on BamaInsider.com constantly. You can be a member. It's really easy to do, BamaInsider.com. Right now, If you go to BamaInsider.com, $9.99 a month or $29.99 gets you from right now all the way until August 31st. So you can have your own conversation with Jimmy, who's the dean of Bama on 3 as we talk. All right, let's bring him on. This is going to be tough right now. This is going to be tough. A guy whose heart's broken. I guess the first question for you, Joseph Hastings, and everyone, you need to go and follow him on Twitter. He covers recruiting for us. Is have you talked to Kyle Henderson? And you know why I say that is because Kyle is a 49er and you're a Cowboy. What did that conversation happen yet? Are you guys cool or?
Mick, the conversation did happen. The details of which I do not want to reveal. It was tough. It was painful. We did a video earlier today, and we greeted each other. And Kyle's very next sentence was about the 49ers. And I just couldn't believe it. I just couldn't. I couldn't get 24 hours of just, not having to hear about it and having it, talked about into my face and people messaging me and, me and all this kind of stuff. I wear proud on my sleeve that I'm a huge Dallas Cowboy fan. And they relished it because everyone, if you're not a Cowboys fan, you love to see the Cowboys lose. There's just something fun about it. So yeah, it's a very bad time for me. I think I'll be over it in August. So I've got another 7 months or so to get over this loss.
Yeah, I was pulling for him yesterday for you. I knew that your heart was going to break, but Dak, he looked like the Dak that played against Alabama back in college. I mean, he really did. He just when they needed him to make the big play, and also Parsons getting hurt really kind of sucked the life out of Dallas. And then do you think the field goal kicker comes back? I mean, is he someone that you guys want on the team next year, or is his last game been played?
It may have been, honestly. I'm ready every single season, every single time we lose at this point, which happens a lot. I'm ready to cut the whole team and just bring in a whole new group of players and coaches and everything. But, man, it's – that's the great thing about the NFL. We get to look forward to the NFL draft and, off-season training and preseason and trades and all that and get to start this cycle again. It's now we're on to the this will be our year phase of things. 2023 will be our year.
I used to get Dallas Cowboy magazine as a kid, and that was like the Randy White, Ed Too Tall Jones days. I remember the triplets, with the good old days, right? And then now this. It's hard to believe they haven't won a Super Bowl since they beat the Steelers with Barry Switzer.
In my lifetime, they have never made it to the NFC Championship. That's the game away from the Super Bowl.
In your lifetime?
In my lifetime.
I quit. I'm leaving.
That is the absolute truth. I was born in 1997. They have not made it to the game away from the Super Bowl during that time. It's been torture. It has been awful. It's been terrible.
What's torture is getting old. That I can sit here and tell you that I remember Randy White and Ed Too Tall Jones and Tony. I had a Tony Dorsett jersey as a kid. Now I'm a Raven now because we got a team, but I still like the Cowboys. So I know it hurt you yesterday. So I'm gonna change the conversation now because I guess it's part of healing, right?
Yes, it is.
And so let's start with recruiting. You're out there, beating the streets to figure out what's going on with the best players in the country, who Alabama's going to get. What were your takeaways from the Battle of Miami?
Yeah, so first off, this was a huge event. I told you about this, a week ago, something I'm very excited about. Did it last year. Saw the likes of Cormani McClain and others. Always attracts a ton of talent, and this year was no different. Got to see Alabama commitments, Julian Sayin, Jalen Mbakwe, and Perry Thompson. I'll try and go through each of them, just let you know what I saw. Yeah. Starting off with Julian Sayin, and talk about someone who the Cowboys could have used on Sunday. This was him. He looked sensational this past weekend. I really liked everything that I saw from Julian Sayin. The poise in the pocket. I know it's a 7-on-7 setting, but they have a certain amount of seconds in which they have to deliver the football. And, he looked poised throughout the whole time on each of his reps. And, his footwork is excellent. Just watch his feet. Just look how quick-footed he is. And he never gets flat-footed either. Steps into his throws with convictions, places it with excellent accuracy and ball placement. And I think he really excelled on slant routes like that one that you saw there, established a great connection with Mazeo Bennett there, who's a 4-star wide receiver target for Alabama. And he's also a lot taller than I initially thought he was. He tweeted out a picture of him and Coach Saban last year. People were saying, oh, he looks small, especially, and when looked at in comparison to Coach Saban, but he's a legitimate 6'2", 6'3" with cleats on, can see the field well, and puts excellent touch on his throws. I was just really impressed with what I saw from Saban. He did have some passes where he overthrew it just a little bit, specifically early on in the tournament. I think that was more so attributed to him being from California and making the cross-country trip out to South Florida literally the day before the tournament started. So, it's not easy to do so. And plus, this is his first time playing with these guys in this type of setting. He hasn't practiced with them. They're from different parts of the country. So just considering all those factors, I really liked what I saw from Saban. Kind of moving over to Mbakwe now. He's a 5-star athlete on Alabama's On-3 consensus, and, he really proved so throughout the tournament. When you watch him, you see somebody who's not necessarily overly long, like a Charles Lester, who's a top cornerback target for Alabama. He's also not the tallest corner out there, like a Desmond Ricks, who's 6'2". Jalen's about 5'11". But when you see him out there, he's very fluid. He flips his hips well, stays in phase with receivers. I really liked what I saw from him when he ran, was chasing down receivers down the field. Did a good job of staying in phase and keeping up with them stride for stride. Has really good ball skills as well. And, I think what makes him exceptionally dynamic and a 5-star prospect is seeing him on the offensive side of the football. You turn on his tape for Clay Chalkville High School, and he's making plays at receiver, jet sweeps, all of that. And then also in the return game too, in kick returns and punt returns. Didn't get to see necessarily that this weekend, but just in terms of pure cornerback coverage skills, I think there's a lot to like, especially since this is somebody who hasn't played competitively since November. He suffered that knee injury that was initially supposed to require surgery. He didn't end up having surgery, which is a good sign for him. So for this being his first action, competitive live action football, I thought he looked really good. And then as for Perry Thompson, he didn't get as many receptions as he would have liked and as he deserved this past weekend. There's a lot of talent on these 7-on-7 teams. One of them being Arian Hampton on his team, who's an Alabama target. But one thing about Perry Thompson that stood out is he's legitimately 6'3", 205+ pounds, and moves very well for that size too. You watch his feet in some of these routes here that he ran, and he looks like a 5'10" slot receiver just with how quick his feet are. I thought he did a really good job on his out routes where he planted his foot and then flattened his route and went to the outside and created a couple of yards of separation. Did that on a few plays and didn't get the football, unfortunately, but he was there. He ran the route that he needed to run. It's just he didn't get the football. He also had a deep comeback route. I think you're about to see it here. You look at how he's able to utilize his body, his big frame, leap up for the pass and maintain concentration going to the ground. That's just, that's stuff that you kind of expect to see from a senior wide receiver, not necessarily somebody from, somebody who's this early on in his high school career and high school development, relatively speaking. So, Perry Thompson, he's a top 5 wideout, in my opinion, bordering top 3. I think there's a lot to like there from what we saw. And yeah, Alabama's commits just in general, man. I was so excited to watch them this past weekend. I hope to see them in some more, 7-on-7 camp-like settings. But once again, the future is bright there in Tuscaloosa.
Yep. Awesome, man. Yeah. #1 recruiting class, and they just continue to roll. Hey, guys, don't forget, if you want all of the latest on Alabama recruiting, transfer portal, you want to talk basketball, you want to talk about football, anything going on with the Crimson Tide, it's BamaInsider.com. And, you swing over there and you can catch up with Joseph and Andrew Bone as they do recruiting. That's BamaInsider.com. $29.99 will get you from now all the way until August 31st. And then, hey, maybe you want to just try it for a month, $9.99 a month. But we're changing the face of team coverage. And we're having a pretty good time doing it, just like on the show, Monday Night QB. And make sure you guys like and subscribe as you hang out with us here on our Bama Insider YouTube channel. All right, Junior Day, another Junior Day coming up for the Crimson Tide. What do you got for us on that?
Yeah, before we get to the junior day, I do want to mention with one of the comments there that was made in our comment section about Julian Sain being locked in with Alabama. That's exactly what he told me. He's really solid with the Crimson Tide, and that's what you want to hear. When Alabama last year, looking at their 2023 class, they had no commitments at that time. Now you have 5 commits, and you always have to be concerned about recruits taking visits, commitments taking visits. There's a couple taking visits this weekend. Jalen Mbakwe to LSU and Perry Thompson to Tennessee. He previously visited Auburn. For saying to say that he's locked in solid and recruiting for Alabama, I think that's really a really positive sign for the Crimson Tide, especially on the heels of that Ohio State offer that he received last week. So, I just wanted to make that note there that Sain is locked in. He said that if he was to go visit LSU, which was kind of what I was hearing at the event, I texted with him. He said, if I'm visiting LSU and I'm on their campus, it's because I'm with my 7-on-7 team. He did the same thing with Miami this past weekend. His 7-on-7 team went to Miami. He made it clear, though, he's only there with his team. It's not like he's, going on an unofficial visit on his own there. So, yeah, just want to note there, he's very locked in. As for the junior day, this is going to be one that we expect to see a lot of prospects on hand, especially in comparison, to the junior day that they had on January 14th, which didn't bring in as many recruits. But, you're going to see the likes of Jordan Seaton, who's the number 1 interior offensive lineman out of Washington, D.C. You can see Corian Gibson. He's a top 100 safety out of Texas. Miles Graham, he's a Florida commitment. Daniel Calhoun. You look at Alabama's 2023 offensive line class, and a bunch of big dudes. Daniel Calhoun fits that mold there for Eric Wolford and company. Martavius Collins, he's Alabama commit who visited Auburn earlier this month. He'll be in town. Xavier Brown, Joseph Stone, who's an LSU commitment. There's a lot of prospects getting on campus for this junior day, Mick, and it's important. And the reason why it's important is because there's a February dead period coming up throughout the whole month. So essentially no prospects are going to be able to visit Alabama. Alabama's also not going to be able to go out and see prospects of their own. So this is a huge time for them just to gather some momentum, see some of these kids in person, really get a feel, continue to build upon those relationships. So, and then they'll probably have another one in March, and then they'll also have their spring game in April. So you look for these big tentpole events to see exactly what Alabama does, how many offers do they extend out, what do they think of recruits who are stepping foot on campus, who are the priorities in this class and the next class. So it's massive. I don't know if I necessarily expect a commitment per se. Anything can happen in the world of recruiting, but I do expect, for some offers to be handed out and, for us to kind of get an idea of where Alabama stands with some of these recruits.
Awesome, man. Great stuff. All right. Just last thing to talk about, Bama number 2 in hoops. I really still can't believe that Alabama's this good in basketball. I mean, like, Nate Oates is what a find. What a find. And the fact that the guys at Alabama, I mean, anytime you make a coaching hire, you pray that you get a guy like this. They're number 2 in the country. And they just, they just keep on finding a way. Last week, we even talked a little basketball recruiting. Do you think it helps football recruiting when you have a really good basketball team? I mean, I remember when Florida did back in, when they won back-to-back championships. And their football team was, a champion at the same time too. So do the guys ever talk about it? I know a lot of the football players love basketball too.
Yes, there was one recruit who I spoke with. I believe it was David Crosby, who's Alabama's 2023 basketball signee. And, he told me that he really appreciated the camaraderie and support that he saw between the football players and the basketball players. Cool. When they're supporting each other, uplifting each other. That's something that you really like to see, just that kind of support level that they have for one another. So I haven't necessarily heard that too much from football recruits, though they do appreciate the environment when they get to go and see, some of these guys in action. I actually spoke with Daniel Hill, who's a priority running back target for Alabama in the 2024 class. He told me before he took his visit to Alabama for the January 14th junior day, he's like, I just want to see Brandon Miller. He wants to see Brandon Miller in person. I texted him. I was like, I'm jealous. I want to see Brandon Miller too. He's exceptional. So I think when you're able to put them in a setting like that, and Coach Saban's attending the games like he has been, I think that really does matter for football recruiting. Now, is it gonna be the difference maker in a recruit choosing Alabama or not? Probably not. They're choosing it for the football program, but anytime you're able to roll out the red carpet for them, showcase a good setting at the school overall, from a sports perspective, from a campus perspective, an academic perspective, I think it only goes to help you. So yeah, I think Alabama should be number one, but the final poll hasn't been released yet.
Yeah, right. Yep. Look, as Nick Saban's said it many times, the only poll that really matters is the one at the end of the season, right? But it's still pretty cool, when your team's number one in the country. Gil, man, roll tide to you too from East Brooklyn, New York, or East New York, Brooklyn. Love Brooklyn. I used to live up in that area when I was a kid, Heightstown, so not too far away. Joseph, great job, man. As always, great stuff. I know that today it was hard to come on here knowing that we might bring up what happened last night in San Francisco, but you've handled it well. And many thanks on another fine appearance. Anything that folks should know about what you're doing over at BamaInsider.com?
Yeah, so this past weekend, I got a bunch of interviews, talked with some top prospects, and I'm just unloading them at this point, pushing out as many interviews as I can this week before the big junior day. So this is the best time to sign up. It's always been a great time to sign up, especially with the work that, Andrew Bone is doing on the recruiting front, and also Clint Lamb. Clint Lamb is putting out some really, really great content. He actually talked with a Georgia writer of ours about Alabama's new, linebacker transfer, and just what he brings to the table. Also kind of gave his analysis of it. And, he's been doing way too early projections and, kind of giving you all an expectation and outlook for this upcoming season. So be sure to check out that work. Check out our work on the recruiting front. I'm going to be bringing back Thursday Cup of Joe this week. So finally glad to do that. It's been a long time coming. So definitely sign up, take advantage of that $30 deal that we have going on. Or if you want to try this out for just a month, you can get us for $10. So I would love to have you all on board and on the Talk of Champions message board.
All right. And that does it for the show. Another great show, by the way. Another really fun episode of Monday Night Quarterback. If you liked it, like and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. That's a way of saying, hey, good show. And make sure you hit the bell so that next time we're live. Tomorrow we'll be on. We'll have your partner and mine, Andrew Bone. He'll be talking recruiting on the Andrew Bone Show. Special thanks to Chris Daughtry behind the scenes, Jimmy Stein for coming on and doing double duty, our friend Clint Lamb, and the guy that puts all this together, Mr. Kyle Henderson. I'm Mick Gillespie. Thanks for hanging out with us, guys. Roll Tide.